Welcome to part two of gaming, basically. Let's just call it that. So, in the last video, I was kind of talking about how gaming has become this huge, giant business now. Um, and I apologize for the lighting, by the way. Um, here's my, here's the one thing that I think game companies should understand, and that is reasonably pricing the items so that people can actually afford them. I feel like if we did that, that you would have more consumers and more product would be more affordable for gamers who necessarily don't have the money to to spend um, on games that are $70, $85. I think that companies need to understand that the consumer does not have that type of money to be blowing on a game every year. Um, for example, let's talk about the 2K series. Like, let's talk about NBA 2K. Now, there are obviously so many people that actually play it, and that's good. I mean, I haven't really played a game since 2014. I believe that was the last 2K game I even played. Um, but what I'm researching and what I'm finding out is that every year that you guys make a new game, you basically lose players and teams that you could use before on a previous year. Sometimes you can't even play with that team, or there's not even that player that you want to use in that version of the game. For example, like that year when I was playing it, you didn't have players like Charles Barkley or Reggie Miller. Um, so to me, that's not really very fun because you're losing fan bases. You're losing people who are interested in playing the game, who expect to be able to use their favorite players from the 1980s or 90s or early 2000s. Um, Here's my theory: is why don't they just have something in 2K so that you could just download, that team or that player, um, so that you're not going to be upset basically when you put the game in, when you start playing it, to realize that, oh, those players aren't going to be in the game. um, and trust me, I like the 2K series. I think 2K sports games are very good. My only concern is you're not really getting the content that you pay for. They're kind of, again, making you download more stuff that you don't necessarily really care about. Um, in the 3-on-3, how could I describe this? It's a good idea. I think it's actually really interesting, because yes, you can use quite a bit of different players and from different eras and things like that. But the only concern I have is then now when you have a my created player, it they just make you jump through hoops to try to build your player up, by doing like drills and practice and things like that. And then you have like little mini games and stuff like that too. My theory is, me personally, I mean, I grew up watching NBA basketball in the early 1990s, and I just felt like the games from then, like, and the NBA Live series especially, I feel like the NBA Live series were incredible because you really got what you were paying for. You got a solid roster. You could be the older teams. You didn't have to worry about downloading stuff. everything was basically on the game. You could just pop it in, play it with your friends, and have fun. And then when they switched it to online, because I know that last year they came out with an NBA Live game. I think it was for the PS4. I believe that was the only console it was even on. Um, and I saw demos of it, and I played a little bit of a demo. Um, I think it was at a GameStop. I can't remember what time or day or anything, but I thought it was a solid game because the NBA Live series pretty much built on basketball video games in the late 90s. Now, I would love EA to come out with NBA Live every single year now. I feel like that is a solid series. I've never really played an NBA Live game that disappointed me. I thought that they were solid, honestly, like on the PlayStation 1 and 2. In fact, I think the best NBA Live game of all time, frankly, if you want my honest opinion, is NBA Live, let's go with, early 2000, 2001, 2003, 2005, and 6 were pretty good. And then it just took a hiatus for like ever until like last year, until they decided randomly to put one out. And then obviously 2K came in and they kind of took over the NBA market, and it's not that I don't like 2K games, it's just I feel like their version of basketball is just basically making you work harder and harder in the game to try to get to that point to where you're actually enjoying it. With the 2K series, right away when you first pop the game in, the first thing that they make you do is create a profile with your email address and play it that way. And I'm like, well, why can't I just use my gamer tag? Why do I have to create like a whole new profile basically to play the game online? Why couldn't I just use my Xbox Live gamer tag? Like, my theory with this again is everything in 2K, when you go into the shop option or shop market or whatever it's called now, I don't understand it really anymore, but I know that everything in there, you have to pay money to unlock all the teams and players, and to me that's like, why? I mean, shouldn't it be about playing the basketball game and having fun with your friends instead of like unlocking all this stuff by paying money for it? Like, shouldn't that already be in the game? Oh man, sports games. Okay, and then I have to be honest, I've played like other games by 2K. I've played like some of the earlier hockey games. I even played an earlier football game that they released a few years ago, which was total garbage. I didn't like it whatsoever. I thought it was really bad. And it's not that I don't like 2K, it's just I feel like it's too far advanced for an avid gamer that really wants to just play and have fun and not worry about like unlocking stuff with money. I really feel like sports games have gotten to the point now to where it's more about who has the highest score online, and basically who can beat who and who has the most strategy. And it's like, when did video games become about strategy? Why can't we just go online and play our friends and not worry about that stuff? Is there a point in time where people are going to start realizing that they're just making money off of every single thing that we do on the game? Like, okay, WWE 2K games, for example. I know I talked about this in the last video, but I want to go a little bit more in detail. Um, Now, I appreciate all the hard work that they've done for the series so far. I think that it's great that you're incorporating all of the different superstars from different eras. That's great. The creation mode, I think, from what I'm hearing, is pretty interesting. I've never really played a game in the past few years. I just kind of lost interest in it. Um, I think the only thing that I have a pet peeve about is, again, you know, you have to pay money for, like, a yearly pass, basically, so that you can get on and download more superstars and content. And again, I feel like they're really ruining the wrestling games by that. I feel like it should be more about gameplay instead of creation and downloading superstars. When I played like 2K, like WWE, like 12 and 13, I don't know. I just thought it was getting to a point to where it was more about creating the perfect superstar so that nobody could beat you online, and creating this great entrance and having storylines and universe mode and showcase and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, can we get back to gaming and having fun instead of paying more and more money for stuff? And I'm not bashing the people that play on this online or anything. I'm just saying, like, me personally, I just want to play the game and have fun. I don't necessarily care about like new outfits and stuff like that. And I mean, no, I understand about the roster and stuff like that. Like, that's cool. You have to keep the roster more modern and you have to keep it up to date and stuff. That's good. I appreciate that. That's cool. The only problem that I have, though, is every single year that I notice, they're taking stuff away from us. They're taking, gaming away, basically. They're taking, like, matches away. They're taking superstars away. What happened to, like, GM mode? And what happened to, like, good story modes? Like, I mean, I don't understand why you guys need to take away, like, tag team table matches away. Like, that was one of my favorite things in the game, and then you completely took it away. Same thing with, like, GM mode. And some of the other stuff, like draft and stuff like that. Like, when we were able to draft our own rosters and stuff like that on some of the earlier games. And is it me, but are they getting lazy about, like, voiceovers, voices on the game to make the people sound like how they should in real life on the shows? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm a person that doesn't want to sit there and read, like, texts and stuff like that when people are talking on the microphone in the game. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, so you couldn't spend 10 minutes of your day recording the person talking? The announce team, I think, honestly, is pretty good in the games. I feel like they've done a great job with that. My only concern is, once again, is now you have that area completely covered. That's great. But when you get into, like, the actual voiceovers for some of the wrestlers and female wrestlers, it's not there. Like, it's not there. It's like, again, it's the text that you have to read, and they're talking into a microphone. And what I've like I played a demo of like 2K, I think it was WWE 2K, I want to say it was like 15 a few years ago, and I thought the gameplay was pretty interesting. The only concern, again, once I started getting into some of the other stuff with like the roster, was, again, you're taking some of the legends that I want to play out of the game. Like, I didn't see like Roddy Piper or Macho Man Randy Savage or Hogan or, any of the wrestlers that I grew up, watching, basically. They were like nowhere to be found. And in some of the games, you also don't have like Mick Foley. And Mick Foley was part of the reason why I watched wrestling, because, Mick Foley was one of those characters that was so funny and innovative on the mic. And then you get into like, I don't know, like I wish that they would just bring back like WCW games, honestly. I wish WWE would just have a separate gaming whole genre and put the WCW game out, like do like an anniversary or something like that, where you incorporate like the WCW talent in that game and just have all the wrestlers in that section and just make a whole game about WCW, and then incorporate like have an NWO roster. And I feel like they should just have like WCW anniversary for like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and obviously I even think the Switch could have benefit for something like that, because I like the idea for the Switch. I think it's a great idea for the fans. I think that it could be worth getting. I've seen some of the game titles for it. It looks kind of interesting. I'm glad that it's portable. But again, I feel like we're still not really getting exactly what we want for 2K games. I feel like they're holding out on some of the areas that originally were supposed to be about gaming for the consumer, and they're concentrating more on online play and spending basically all your money on unlockables. Here's my advice if you are an avid 2K gamer that likes the both series, the wrestling and the basketball games and some of the other games. I think that we as fans deserve for you guys to stop messing around with options, menus, and taking away things from us, because eventually we're going to get tired of you guys taking away that stuff, and we're not going to buy the games anymore. The reason why I will not be buying 2K17 or 18, same thing goes with the WWE games, is because, once again, you guys are taking the fun out of the games. You're taking matches away from us. You're taking superstars away from us. You're taking unlockable content from us because you're making us pay for it. It's not really fun anymore to play a game if you don't have the option of using favorite wrestlers, favorite basketball teams, favorite basketball players. I think that that's really unfair, and I don't know if that has to do with like contract negotiations with some of the players or some of the wrestlers or what, but I just feel like this all needs to stop. It needs to start being about having fun and playing games instead of blowing money on content online. Now, I've seen some of the story modes and career modes and stuff like that. I mean, I watch YouTube videos. I watch, Twitch once in a while. some of that stuff is interesting. But, again, you're not concentrating on gameplay. You're concentrating on unlocking characters and stuff and paying for it. And I feel like we've lost what gaming was about, and that's fun.